You snooze for another 10 minutes. Then you realize that your kid has gotten up now and wants breakfast. You've lost your 10 minutes. It's really hard to get it back, but you feel really grumpy because you know you've let yourself down and you don't feel good and you feel that tension in your lower back and the whole day is just going to go.
Welcome to Share.care, an all-inclusive community sharing experience, strength, and hope to create strong, healthy, and inspiring relationships. Share.care communities work toward every individual feeling safe, valued, and heard, free from the threat of danger, pain, or harm. Each episode, founder Damian Andrews explores the principles underpinning Share.care and invites expert special guests to share their knowledge so you can easily reap the benefits so many others experience. You hold the choice to create your future. Let it be with strong, healthy, and inspiring relationships.
Hello and welcome to a Pondering Life episode of the Share.care podcast. Our belief is that global peace starts at home. Feeling safe, valued, and heard gives you a foundation to confidently step out and make the world a happier and safer place for everyone. Because in today's world, it's in your own best interest to help others. And today it is my great and wonderful and awesome pleasure to welcome back the amazing Jana Barrett. Now, Jana helps women and men over 50 unleash their true power of their body, move with freedom, be pain-free so they can live their life to their wildest dreams. And that really excites me, Jana. It's a pleasure to have you back. It's so wonderful chatting to you. We almost probably didn't get here because we're having a long pre-show and having so much fun. I nearly forgot to hit record. How are you?
I'm great, Damien. Thank you so much for having me again. It's such an honor and such a pleasure to be here with you.
Oh, no, it's and as we were talking about in the pre-show, the honor is mine because for those, and I'll put the link in the show notes, but last time we were talking about some exercises and I went away and studied a few things that Jana teaches. I put that into practice and it was awesome. I feel so much excited, so much more energy, which is scary because I have a lot of energy anyway, and I've got my coffee here too. So my energy coffee is dangerous.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah, but we were going to talk about uncommon ways to stay fit and with what you're doing. And you mentioned, which I love, people send me acronyms all the time. And I go, what does that mean? And not having, being concerned about what people think I actually ask. But you referenced MED. Tell us about MED.
Well, it's a quite new acronym I found out about as well, because what I used to always teach and what I've always coached in my entire career is to, rather than focus on some kind of big, lofty sessions at the gym, people should just really turn up and commit to 10, 15 minutes a day for long periods of time. So it's the kind of compound effect where you get incredible results from just doing a little bit every day. And so MED, which is I found recently from an article, is the minimum effective dose. So it's the minimum amount of exercise frequently done that basically moves the needle towards building physical strength and mobility, flexibility, and pretty much aging with confidence that you'll have a body that will not fall apart and experience that kind of typical functional decline that most older people experience, that eventually lands them in assisted living with injuries and kind of cognitive decline comes from that as well. So it's the minimum effective dose, which I believe can be as little as 15 minutes a day, even 10.
I love that because, it seems to be, as you mentioned before, as we're getting, moved through life, I'm trying to avoid using the word old because it sort of has connotations. As we move through life, as we become wiser, that's why I got my wisies on. But how much of that I noticed from my perspective in life, the times where I've struggled and lacked energy, it was because it was correlated to not doing things. But when you're not doing things, you don't feel like doing things. How does someone adjust to that? How do you, because I remember there's times where I was times in my life, and I'm talking about a day, but a period where I'd be just lounging around, not really exercising, or even being busy with work and not exercising, but then struggling and struggling, and then starting to get some pain creep in, sore muscles, that kind of having trouble getting out of bed, and it was really linked to not exercising. But then I don't feel like exercising. So how does someone make that shift?
Yeah, that's a tricky one. Yeah, it's a tricky one because a lot of people kind of rely on motivation and just feeling like it. But I think that's really unrealistic. I mean, if I exercise when I'm motivated, I'll probably exercise once a week tops. You know, I think what I tell my clients is you need to figure out your why. Why?
Mm,
Why are you exercising? And so at the moment, most of the women that I coach kind of mainly women in their 50s. Usually their why is to be able to walk without a cane when they're older, to be able to
mm,
get on and off a chair comfortably, to get in and out of a car, to pick up a grandchild out of a cot. It's all these seemingly simple things, but they become really difficult once you can't do them anymore. So I often tell people, answer your why. So then when you wake up in the morning and you just think, oh my gosh, I just can't be bothered, I really don't want to, link it to the why. Because it's not motivation that's going to get you out of bed, right? It's about
mm,
dedication and commitment. And the kind of, I think it's the not letting yourself down, because you're never
mm.
going to feel good, right? If you plan to go and get up and exercise in the morning and then you don't, you feel horrible the whole day, right? Have you experienced that? I
Yeah,
have, when I
yeah,
just
yeah,
couldn't be bothered, and then the whole day you feel just terrible. And I think the whole day just slides really.
yeah,
And I often say to people, just do it, just do the hard thing, just do it, just do it. Really, there's nothing more than I can say. There will people, or like Mel Robbins calls it the 5-second rule. Don't even
mm,
think about it. Don't actually have that dialogue in your head, the conversation, shut the conversation down real quick. The kind of like, oh, but I didn't get really enough sleep, and oh, I've got like, like you start the dialogue in your head. Like,
yeah,
shut the dialogue, and put the alarm clock out of your reach. That's
mm.
another hack that I've used in the past. Put the alarm clock somewhere where, in order to stop it, you have to actually physically get out of bed.
Yeah,
It's
and make
just
it really loud as well.
obnoxious and loud.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and then your partner pushes you out of bed.
Yeah, totally. And hates you for the rest of the day. Yeah.
But
Yes.
is it hard though? I mean, or is it a focus? Because what you talked about there, because a lot of times we kind of live in the moment, don't we? We're thinking about now, we're not thinking further into the future, going, well, this is like, I was listening to a show recently, we are talking about demographics and
Mm,
how there's a shortage of people in their 40s. And it's like, well, the problem isn't the shortage of people in their 40s. The problem was 40 years ago, there's a shortage of babies. And this was always coming. We just
mm,
didn't appreciate it or plan for it until now. Is
mm.
that shift where, as part of that why you're talking about, is just having that vision of this is how I want to be, and therefore because motivation wears out, doesn't it? It's effort.
It's a
Motivation.
feeling. It's a feeling.
Yeah,
It comes and goes, just like being angry or being upset,
yeah.
the same thing.
Yeah, so is it, I mean, does it, if a person just says, oh, okay, this is who I am, I'm a person that exercises on a almost daily. I would say, rather than say daily, because if you don't do it on a day for whatever reason, then you've failed, which doesn't set you up very well. But is it a
Mm,
case where you have that mental shift and just without making it about willpower, because that runs out, or
mm.
motivation, as you say, it depends on how you feel, but just go, this is the person I am. Is that what is setting up, you're setting up with the people that you're working with?
Absolutely, yeah. It's about, this is just what I do, full
Mm,
stop. This is what I do. And often I found that people get quite addicted to the feeling. Like, most of my clients or the people that I work with, they notice the difference in the day when they exercised and the day when they didn't.
mm,
And there is such a, you know, remarkable difference between those 2 days, that that helps them, just get up that 20 minutes earlier or 10 minutes earlier and do the exercise. But yeah, it is about like just realizing this is what I do because
mm.
I don't want to be old and injured, and I don't want to fall over and break my hip, and I want to go on adventures with my loved ones
Mm.
when I retire, or like, because I think, we're living much longer, but I have recently on some podcast listened to, there is your lifespan and there is your health span, because
Mm.
what is the point in living till you're 95 if you spent the last 20 years or 10 years in a assisted living, not being
Mm.
able to do anything? So
Yeah.
it's about trying to live the life you want to live for as long as you possibly can, because sometimes you can't prevent it. Sometimes we get struck by Parkinson's or Alzheimer's or any other multiple sclerosis or any other conditions that we can do very little about. But there's a lot of things you can do, and there's a lot of things that are in your control as you are aging. And age can just become a number. Like, I just turned 46 last week,
Mm.
and this is probably the fittest and strongest that I have ever been in my life. And for some
Mm.
people, or 20 years ago, I would have been already going towards that, like, old person.
Mm.
Like, I surf and I skate with my kids and I hike, and, like, it's age will become reasonably irrelevant if you just look after the kind of the shell that carries you around.
Yeah. I love the words that you just used then. Live the life you want to live. Is
Yeah.
that, I mean, when we look at that too, because, I mean, there's a lot out there talking about being your authentic self, being who you are, which is really good that we're doing that. And I'm just wondering from that perspective, is that part of an awakening that we're having as a species, where we're going, okay, because I look at my dad who worked in the same organization his entire career. It was never a thought of doing, working anywhere else. You just didn't do it. And people of his generation didn't. If you moved, you know, if you move jobs regularly, it was like, well,
What's wrong
can't you
with
hold
you?
a job? Can't you hold a job? You're unstable. But if you do that now, it's like no ambition. What's wrong with you?
Yeah.
Is it a case that we are making that shift for ourselves as well? Now we're going, because I love those words, live the life you want to live.
Mm.
And I think the key word there is at the start, live. And what is living for you? Is that part of that process, this awakening going, well, I get to choose how I want to live my life. And if as you said, I want to pick up the grandchildren out of the pram when I'm more mature,
Yeah.
staying away
Yeah.
from the O word.
A little bit down the line,
Exactly.
in the
When I have
future.
grandchildren, I'd like to be able to pick them up.
Yeah, you do, right?
Yeah. So is that, is it part of that awareness, this being able to get to the MED, is to go, well, this is the life I want to live. Is it
Mm.
getting that clarity first? Is that important?
I think so. I think people are, because we are living longer, I think people are thinking about it. And often what makes a lot of my clients sign up with me is seeing their mothers and grandmothers, or, grandfathers, go through that horrid physical decline where they
Mm.
just, because they haven't paid attention. And it's a lack of information for a lot of people too. I think that we have so much more access to information and science and research than
Mm.
people like my grandmother had. My grandmother didn't know that she was supposed to do strength training and
Mm.
mobility training. She lived through two wars. Like, she kind of barely
It was
survived
doing
for
strength
half
training
the.
as it was, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and but I think we have more information now. We have more
Mm.
information about what's happening in our bodies as we are. Do I say getting older? As time passes, we're gonna spend the whole podcast figuring out clever ways
You're
how
gonna
to
hate
not
this.
say getting
Every
older.
going forward from now, and if the O words ever mentioned, you're going, that Damien.
I know. It's good though. Keeps me on my toes. So yeah, I think we are having more information about, no one's ever talked about bone density probably 20, 30 years ago. It was
Mm.
just a given. You get to
Mm.
50 and then you fall over and you break a hip. It's just what
Mm.
happens because you are getting older, because you are old. But now
Mm.
it's not the case anymore. I think it's information. Yeah, I think it's more
Mm.
information. Probably too much sometimes as well.
Well, yeah, it can be, what is the focus, but in respect of, the aging process, see, I didn't use the O word there. I used the A word. But I was watching and that process of aging, part of that, because they're doing there's a lot of research and it was showing people our age, the life expectancy for when we get there is actually in the 110 to 120 mark now, is what they're expecting. As much as it's where it is now, but with they're allowing for advancements in medical ability. They're saying we could be living that long. And part of that relates to, I can't remember all three off the top of my head, but one of the key reasons that we age is we have what's called senescent cells in our body, which is where a cell, which is interesting. If you're into zombie movies, you'll love this. And for the guys that are listening, and you really want to, Pride and Prejudice is probably not your popular movie, but if you put there's a movie called Pride and Prejudice with zombies, and it's really, really cool. I think it was actually made in New Zealand, but
Doesn't surprise me.
got a high production value, and it's actually, yeah, it's a very, very good movie. Anyway, I'm going somewhere with the zombie thing, but the senescent cells. What happens is normally when a cell, something goes wrong with it, it decays and gets ejected. But sometimes it has a protein in it that causes it not to actually fully die. So it actually becomes a zombie cell within your body, and it doesn't die. It stays there. And as these build up, that they've found that's what caused there's three things, and I can't remember what the other two off the top of my head, but there's the senescent cells is a key factor as these build up, because the zombie cells don't go anywhere. They start to then cause problems for other cells, and that's part of that aging process. And they've actually done research in mice where they removed, not all of them, but some of the senescent cells, and the mice lived 30% longer. And that was only removing some of the senescent cells. So from that perspective of living your life and living longer, I mean, obviously, having that awareness of what that choice is. And I'm just wondering from that perspective around, mental health, as part of mental health is going, well, hey, I want to live, as opposed to just being, okay, but I can actually live. Do we need to have that shift to help with the fitness side of things?
Mm. And it's about thriving, not just be okay, but thriving. And I think a lot of people don't actually experience the level of well-being they possibly can.
Mm.
I have no idea that feeling amazing is actually that's our baseline. That's how we should all be feeling all the time.
Mm.
But it's our lifestyle choices that, I know that if I spend half a day in front of a computer, my energy is just way down.
Mm.
It's you kind of exhausted and yeah, so it's our lifestyle choices, I think. It's not enough exercise, not enough time in nature. Yeah.
That's because, what you mentioned there about experience the full capacity of our life. I'm paraphrasing what you've said there. But from that side of things, because I look at it, my life every day for me is amazing. I don't have bad days at all. Which some people go, how do you do that? It's a focus. It's a training. It's a shift in looking at. I remember someone said to me a long time ago, if you told a child, they have a wide-eyed factor. If you told a child, if you go out to the back lawn and say, here, everything out there is alive, a young child's going to go, wow, how does it work? And have that factor. And so from being told that, I tried to have that mentality of that wide-eyed factor going, what's going on here? And having that excitement. Is it, from a baseline of exercise, how much of that, when you look at the clients and the people that you work with, is that connection to people regularly doing exercise, to having that attitude of, an exciting future?
Absolutely. I think that when you are fit, you don't have to be mega fit, just baseline strength and mobility. And basically, if a friend invites you for a 2-hour walk, you can say, oh yeah, sure, that sounds amazing. I think you just open yourself up to adventures and joy and Do you know what I mean? Like if you have to say no because you've got a sore ankle and your lower back is killing you after 20 minutes of walking, you're going to have to
Yeah,
say no to that walk, right? So I think it's about just experiencing, like juicing out the most out of life because
yeah,
it's short, right? And yeah, it's about adventures. Like I think everybody should be having adventures, you
I
know.
love that.
You don't have to go and climb Mount Everest, but just do something that brings you joy and that wide out, that feeling of like, wow, when you walk somewhere or you decide at 55 that you're going to start learning to surf or sail or something. I have
Mm,
clients now who are picking up adventurous sports in their 50s
yeah.
and they can. And there's a freedom in that. There's a
Mm,
massive freedom and thinking like I'm not over the hill. Like I can do all these incredible things and also keeping up with your children. So most of my clients or the people that I work with or people that are in my world are parents.
mm,
I have 3 children, 17, 14, and 11.
mm.
And they are active. Like I want to be able to go and skate with my 11-year-old, or like she does jujitsu and I used to do it too. So we kind of wrestle a bit, like,
Love
but
that.
you can't do that if you are hurting and if you
Mm,
are unfit, you just can't do that. Or, my son goes to the gym, so sometimes we train together. I can do that. We can go on big hikes or we go on surfing holidays together and boogie board and
mm.
anything. It's like I think you're just shutting down life because you just can't do things that you would like to.
And is it a case if you've gone down a certain path? Because you mentioned before that you're the fittest now that you've ever been in your life. Is that normal where you can actually, if you haven't, just say, you've let yourself go, done the Al Bundy, and you're sitting there on the couch with your hand in your pants? Um, is it for those who are old enough to remember that show? You'll get the reference.
I do remember that. I did, yeah.
But is it? I mean, is it possible for everyone to do that? Can you come back from that if you've been sitting around going, yeah, haven't had that awareness. Let's put it just it's been something. I'm going to use the word ignorant because and in a loving way, but you've been
Yeah,
ignorant that it's been possible for you. Can someone come back from that and find fitness? Is that available for everybody?
it's available for everybody. It's absolutely available for everybody, and I see it every day.
Mm. How
It's
does
people who haven't moved their bodies for 10, 20 years, and they suddenly they just start moving. You just have to start. You just have to start and start gently, because if you haven't moved for 10 years, don't expect to be super fit and strong in 6 weeks. It doesn't
mm,
work that way. So yeah, absolutely. It's available to everyone. This feeling of being strong and mobile and living in a body that does what you ask it to, it's available to absolutely everyone. Unless you're suffering from some catastrophic injury or medical condition,
mm,
obviously. But then, I have seen people that work with people with cerebral palsy or people that are post strokes and people, that have gone through some terrible experiences. And exercise is often the catalyst of the recovery. You can come back, maybe not 100% after catastrophic stroke at the age of 70, but you can come back. I have seen amazing results. People can get from just functional exercise,
is it a
learning to
case?
walk again,
Sorry, go ahead.
like learning to walk again, or learning
Mm,
to go up the stairs. I saw a video. There's an amazing company in the States, I think it is. It's called Functional Patterns, and they often work with people that have had strokes or have been really disabled or have been born with some serious birth defects that affect their ability to move. And there was a video of a man in his late 70s who had a horrible stroke, and half of his body was
mm,
just dead weight essentially. And just by training for 6 months, like he was able to walk up the stairs again, like
wow.
properly like that, rather than one and then another one. So
Mm,
it is possible. Yeah, it is possible. And often you see these people, or see disabled people doing incredible things, and you kind of like, what's your excuse? Like you've got an able body and it wants to be moved. And I think, our bodies are begging to be moved, begging to be moved, because I think when you exercise, and it doesn't have to be anything complicated, everything is better. Your mood, your mental health. I mean, there's so much research now that, for anxiety and depression, exercise is often more potent than medication. I heard somewhere that in Japan, if you are depressed, the first thing that the doctor prescribes is forest walks. It's called a forest walk therapy. So they send you to the forest 3 times a week. That is the first thing they prescribe. Yeah, so it is potent, and I think we've kind of forgotten about it.
Yeah, I guess you can't charge as much for a forest walk as you can for medicine.
No, you can't. No, big farmers are going to make any
the
money.
cynicism's creeping in. Oh no!
Yeah, because that's the thing, once you kind of start being a little bit more aware, and you kind of like, hey, Big Pharma made like $37 billion last year or something like that.
And obviously, medicine is very important. We're certainly not knocking it.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. And like, it saves people lives. And in my family, like I have family members that medication saved their lives with mental health. It really did. And there's place, if you've got horrible, medication, it is amazing, but there's also a lot of things we can do for ourselves too, just to enhance it, to enhance our well-being. Yeah.
I mean, you mentioned about excuses before. I heard the word excuses. Maybe it was in my head, but I heard it anyway. We can rewind the tape later and check. But because when I work with large corporations and I'm implementing change, one of the things I implement as part of the programs, and it was a no excuse policy, which was if you give, and people would set their own tasks, and then the following week when we caught up, if they hadn't done it, and it didn't matter why, but you weren't allowed to give it an excuse. You just say, I didn't do it. That was it. And it was amazing because, I mean, Share.care's first, although we don't, the principles, there's 10 principles, and they're not really in order, but the one at the top of the list is personal responsibility. And it was interesting that I found how much responsibility people took when they couldn't give an excuse. But the thing that it took me, I'm a slow learner. It took me a while to realize, and I went, why don't I apply that same principle to my life? Even though I was teaching big corporates this. And when I did that, it was amazing how much different it made to me getting things done and doing things like exercise. How much do you feel in the people that you're dealing with where people don't do things, it's because of them giving themselves an excuse as to why they didn't do it?
Yeah, I hear it all the time too. I mean, I have clients right now that, don't show up for sessions or don't do the daily session that they are, have in their programs. It's to be perfectly honest, the older I get, the more experienced coach I become, the less patience I have with excuses. Because you can't be annoyed at the results you didn't get for the work you didn't do.
I love that quote. I know, I'm going to write that down.
Yeah. And sometimes, sometimes life gets in the way, right? If you've got children and, or elderly aging parents or, life gets in the way. But if you can't fit in 15 minutes of exercise, it's not really a time issue, it's a priority issue. And making excuses, like, I have people who say, oh, I don't have 15 minutes to exercise. And then you ask them, are you on Facebook? Yeah, I am. And then you say, well, then you do have 15 minutes to exercise. Because it's about priorities, yeah. And the excuses, it's old. It's old, and it doesn't get you anywhere. And it is that accepting that personal responsibility, because like we expect the healthcare system to fix us down the road, and there's like no personal responsibility, for your weight and for your this is probably going to upset some people, and for your fitness level, I mean, you should have a basic level of fitness and well-being that you are responsible for. If you drink a bottle of wine every single night and then you have fish and chips every single night and then you have diabetes and you expect the healthcare system to fix you up, I mean, I'm sorry, but like you cook that up for yourself, and there is information now. People know what you roughly should be eating and what you should not be eating. And so I kind of think that I love what you said. You stop making excuses for whatever and just accepting I was lazy. I didn't get up yesterday. It wasn't like, oh, I was just really tired and the kids kept me up in the night. It's like, no, I actually, I was lazy. I didn't do it. Yeah. So I love that. How you said that you just accept personal responsibility and stop making excuses. Yeah. Yeah. I have very little patience for it now. Yeah.
You get to that point in life. I similar sort of thing for me. I'm very selective of who I work with for that reason. I don't want to be trying to. From my perspective and what I ascribe to as life is easy. It really is. If you do, money's the example I use all the time. If you don't spend everything you earn and you invest that bit and you reinvest the income from that, you'll be wealthy. It's not a. It will happen. It's not an option. And that's not a difficult set of instructions. And similar with health, what you're talking about, and I love that you're talking about this, the priorities side of things, and that you're connecting that. I'm taking it. You're connecting that to the why, as to why you're doing this. What is your priority? Is it to be, when you have children's, that's a word, children. I make
Grand
stuff up.
humans.
I'm
Yes.
making little humans. Love it, little people. That your priority is to be able to spend time with them. Then, as you say, everyone. It's interesting because we have what I call, it's a program called Max Time, because it's about effort management, not time management. Time's a constant. Everyone has 24 hours a day, and time moves at the same pace for everyone. So it's not about, when you look at someone who gets a massive amount of stuff done during the day, it's not that they have more, it's how they manage their effort. And part of that is to do with the priorities on your list. But I love that you've touched on that priority component. Do you find it's easy to get people to shift their priorities, or do they have to want to do it themselves?
A little bit of both, I think, because some people just don't want to help themselves. So it's really difficult to for me to help them. They need to want it themselves. They need to have that kind of fire up their backside, And unfortunately, that usually takes an injury or some really bad ache, or they have to give up the sport they love. Like, or like you hear people, they have a heart attack and then they really turn their lives around.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, for most people, it is usually that. But yeah, a little bit of both. A little bit of both. Yeah.
Is
And it's
part of it. Sorry, go
sorry.
ahead.
No, you go.
I was going to come with that responsibility, priorities, making excuses, putting that in that category, because you touched on before. You mentioned about having a bottle of wine and fish and chips at the end of the night. When we look at that, and I used to smoke, I used to drink, and I don't do either of those anymore. But we know, I mean, back in the day, there was doctors that said, smoking was good for you. Now, common sense would say that it just doesn't make any sense at all. And I put that in the same category because, I stopped drinking because a person I was with at the time had an alcohol problem. And I thought, if I stop drinking, they'll stop. Well, it didn't work from that perspective, but I noticed my health changed dramatically. And it was then that I went, well, reality is, no matter how you want to frame it, and the alcohol industry is not going to like this at all, but
No.
it's poison at the end of the day. And to say you're putting poison in your body and that's good for you is kind of lying to yourself in a way. If you drank a cup of petrol, and I know it's not alcohol, well, let's take some ethanol. That's alcohol.
That's how it converts in your brain. Yeah.
Yeah, and we know, I mean, talk about, I used to facetiously joke when I was drinking, and there's times I drank a lot. Um, you know, alcohol kills brain cells, but you only need 10%, so it doesn't really matter. Um, which is, when you say it, it's stupid, but we
Mm.
have these things. What is it? Do you think, do we just not want to have a good life when we have these things that should be completely common sense, or is
Mm.
it just going along with the flow?
I think so. Yeah, it always puzzles me because there's a really famous neuroscientist called Andrew Huberman, and he did like a 2-hour sciencey podcast on alcohol and what happens in your body. And basically, the gist of it is there's no return on drinking alcohol. There's nothing. There's only adverse effects. Yeah,
Mm,
maybe you get a bit of a buzz and you get a bit more social. And if you're kind of an introvert at a party, it kind of helps you come out a little bit. And but like you, I don't drink because I realized that I'm not willing to sacrifice any time in my life where I don't feel the best I possibly can.
mm.
I want to be able to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning and go for a surf rather than going like, oh my God, like, whoa, that's not going to happen today. And there's no day that I want to miss out on feeling
Mm,
good and having experiences. So for me, it's kind of easy equation. It's not, I don't
mm,
get anything from it because the payback is so hideous that it's not worth the
mm,
couple of hours of fun the night before. But it comes like I live in New Zealand. New Zealand is an incredibly, thriving alcohol culture.
mm,
People binge drink here, and it's really set in the culture.
mm,
And I found that I actually had to stop going to parties and socializing because the pressure was so big for me to drink, and there was a lot of kind of comments like, "Oh, come on, just have one and have fun," and
mm,
you kind of standing going, "Don't try to convince me to have alcohol because you feel bad because you're already drunk at 10 p.m.
mhm.
I'm not, and I'm having
Yeah.
plenty of fun here without alcohol." And so I had to say no. I choose very carefully the social engagement I go to because if I go somewhere to a house party and by 10 o'clock everybody is literally falling on their faces, it becomes quite tedious. You don't really have a very good conversation and everybody's really loud. Yeah. So it comes at a price, but especially in midlife,
Mm.
alcohol is just stupid, especially for a woman.
I noticed that from my perspective when I'd stopped, because I said I stopped drinking for the reasons I outlined before. But then, after that, I did go to some places and I started to have, some, because I wasn't doing it for me. But what I noticed, because I hadn't drunk for a while, and then when I did have a drink, I felt exhausted. Like literally, yeah, literally. I wasn't drunk because I wasn't drinking a lot, but just a couple of drinks, all of a sudden that energy that I have, maybe that's why I have that awesome days every day, because alcohol's a depressant anyway, so I don't have that to. But what I found really interesting, because as you mentioned about in social interactions, and I didn't even notice, for years and years and years. We've had with some friends had poker nights, boys poker nights. We get together and play poker, which is really cool. We have fun, and it's been great taking my son now as well to be part of that and part of the sledging and hanging shit on each other and just fart jokes basically. Um, but what I found interesting was because people are drinking there. But I just didn't drink. I didn't make a deal about it. I didn't say anything about it. But when someone asked to drink, I said, no, I'll just have water. And that's was there. And no one said anything about it until a couple of other people said, oh, you don't drink either. And then I noticed, I hadn't even noticed they hadn't been drinking and hadn't been drinking for a long time. It was
Mm,
interesting. I just didn't even notice it.
mm. It's
And
getting a little bit more like I think more people are choosing not to drink because even when you go to the supermarket now, 5 years ago, you could only buy lemonade, Coke, and some juice.
mm,
And now they're coming out with like non-alcoholic gin, and like these delicious drinks. So I think it's becoming more common that people are choosing not to drink, and it's not because they are either pregnant or they are recovering alcoholic. They're actually just making a conscious choice of to not to. Yeah.
Yeah,
And
there's a
but
Chrissy.
like I grew up in Europe, so I have nothing against alcohol. I think Europeans have a very healthy relationship with alcohol, and it's part of, like Italians, they go for lunch and they, for 3 hours eat beautiful food and drink beautiful wine and stuff. But I think that, seeing what happens here, even like at team parties, I've got a 17-and-a-half-year-old son, and sometimes you pick him up and you kind of go, whoa, it's the hypocrisy of it too. Like the parents are drinking so heavily, but then they tell the teenagers not to drink. So apparently what happens at teenage party, I'm going to let you in on a secret, is that teenagers get drunk as quickly as possible so they have time to sober up before their parents pick them up. I kid you not. Yeah.
I'm interested to see what happens there because my son's 14 and I'm interested to see what happens there. I know with his half sisters, because I was the parental figure for them for a long time, from when they were very young. They didn't drink until they were roughly 18-ish. They just didn't do it. Which, I mean, I'm not sure how that was. So I'm interested to see what he does from that perspective. But I was just wondering, from that side of things, because it is becoming more common. There's a famous radio host here, Chrissy Swan, who I know, through all through children's schools. Her child went to the same school as mine, but yeah, she made a choice. She didn't make a big deal about it, which obviously we don't want to, but she did say, "Look, I've decided to," and I noticed her health improved dramatically, and maybe it was a health reason why she stopped drinking. I don't know. She didn't get into the detail, but she said and she was talking about on the radio how she'd made a conscious choice not to do it, and she's just her thing for her reasons. But it is, yeah, you're right. It is becoming a bit more common now. I'm not sure what that does for the wine industry, but because
Oh, don't worry. I think they're okay. I think they're okay. Yeah.
It's not going to be a massive movement anytime soon.
No, it's not. No, not in this country anyway. Yeah, I don't know how it is in Australia, but yeah, not in this country. I think it's firmly set to stay. I think. Yeah.
Well, and that's where I wonder about that because it said I similar to you, I have a European background, and my first drink was when I was 7. I remember it. I won a bottle of champagne in a raffle, and my parents let me drink it.
The whole thing?
Well, I didn't get to the whole thing, but I drank enough to have a massive hangover. I still remember it. But I do remember too. It's interesting how you have these kind of things because one of my earliest memories was. I know I was being held by my dad. I was an infant, and I remember I remember I could see my dad's hand, and he was holding what I can only imagine was a Melbourne Bitter bottle because I can see it. I can see the beer bottle. I can see the red label. I can't read it, but I can see the red label, so I know it's a beer bottle. And later, I know my dad did drink Melbourne Bitter. So I'm assuming it was a Melbourne Bitter bottle, and he gave me a sip, as a lot of those generations do to infants. And I was violently ill, like I threw up. And from that point in time, well, I don't remember, but certainly later, just the smell of beer would make me feel nauseous. So I never drank. I drank lots of other stuff,
but not beer.
not
Melbourne Bitter.
But I couldn't drink beer. I couldn't drink beer at all until I think it was around 22-ish, and I didn't. After I left the army, I didn't have a job, and I went to a party, and I didn't have anything to drink. But beer was free, so I kind of forced myself to drink it, and then I learned how to drink beer.
Yeah. I mean, I remember my ex-husband told me that they used to put brandy in his milk bottle when he was a toddler to make him sleep better.
Yeah.
I mean,
my grandparents did that.
Child abuse now, isn't it?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, that was the culture I grew. All the grandparents did that. They would put a little bit of brandy in the milk bottle to calm the kids down.
Yeah, chill you out so you can go to bed and they can party. Yeah.
So,
yeah, it's quite a different world now.
But from that, I mean, obviously, we've touched on that for a little bit, and some people are going to jump up and down, which is fine. I don't
Yeah,
read.
it's okay. I
I
can
don't
take
read
the
the
hate.
comments.
I can take the hate over alcohol. Yeah.
But from that side of things, we come back to this. I mean, responsibility, and as you said, setting priorities. I mean, if someone was wanting to improve their health, and I mean, is the first step that you start with, is that having your why? You talk about having your why is getting them, having that future in their mind as to what they want it to be. Is that where a person should start?
I think that's a good start. Yeah, because it will always, you need something to fall back on when it gets hard. And it will
Mm,
get hard. You will have days where you just really can't be bothered, or you just really don't want to, or maybe you do fall into a mild depression, and the last thing you can think of is to get up and go and exercise, even though you
mm,
know it will make you feel better. So I think just be prepared for the hard times. And David Goggins, who is this amazing American public figure who's like a Navy SEAL, and he runs these 250-mile ultra marathons through bush and stuff.
mm,
He's written a couple of books about doing the hard thing, always choosing to do the hard thing and not whinging and not complaining, just doing
mm,
it. No excuses. And he often say when he enters a race, a lot of people tell you visualize yourself at the finish line with the medal around your neck, right?
mm,
Visualize yourself at the end. And he said, I visualize all the horrid things I'm going to have to get through before I get to the finish line so that I'm mentally prepared for the hardship.
mm.
And so I think just, yeah, answer your why and be prepared. Realize that you might go really well for a few weeks and then you hit some kind of, how we all kind of start with a hiss and a roar and then kind of like,
I love
just,
that. It's gonna roll.
that's why, like 90% of New Year's resolution fell by 1st of February or something horrendous
Well,
like that.
the actual attempts to achieve New Year's, resolutions is less than one, which means some people don't even start.
They just think about it when they're drunk at the New
Yeah,
Year's Eve
exactly.
party.
Yeah. I'm gonna be
Yeah,
sexier next year.
yeah, totally. I'm gonna lose 10 kilos. Yeah. So yeah, I think the why is a big one. Like, why are you doing it? Because often, like, you need to sometimes make people realize that the pain of staying the same is greater than the pain of change.
Mm.
That it is painful to get up every day and exercise, but it's a lot more painful to have a
Is it
broken hip.
though? Is it?
But I personally don't think so, but for a lot of people it is. Yeah, for a
Well,
lot
this
of
is what I
people.
wonder, because I mean, I have a theory that procrastination is not real. It doesn't exist. It's a fictional thing. Because I want to cover two things. I'll come back to procrastination in a minute. But you talked about this part of, you know, the guy that was talking about, the medal, but he's visualizing all the things he had to go through to get there. Is it a case of what makes it hard is we have a misconstrued expectation of what it's going to be like? Because you've seen those chart, they have the thing, and they've got the one at the top, and it goes, how the plan, and it's the straight line, and it's nice and easy, and it's going. I don't like using the word easy, but it's a straight line. It's very, very smooth. And then they say what actually happens, and it's like this wavy
It's like
mountain.
cotton wool. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
like
it's just all different obstacles and things like that. And so what I wonder with that side of things, with this it being hard, is it because we create a false expectation and say, thinking that it's going to be every morning going to wake up and feel supercharged. Well, you can. That's another story, but um, it's a mindset thing. But there's a whole process, and we can do another whole podcast on that. But for most people, like you're saying, they're not going to wake up every morning going, okay, yeah, I haven't jumped out of a Tony Robbins episode today, and I'm going to go. You go to those rah-rah seminars, and you get all super pumped up, and it's like, yeah, and then the next day it's like, yeah, and then a week later it's like,
yeah, yeah.
and if you're because we're creatures of habit, so if your habits are not waking up every day feeling awesome, then your reality isn't going to be a smooth line. So do we think creating a false reality, i.e. alcohol's good for you or smoking's good for you, it becomes difficult because we've created that false reality, whereas we go, okay, some days I'm going to wake up and I'm not going to feel like this. I'm falling into very I'm going to. Um, I'm not going to. I'm not going to feel like getting out of bed. And therefore, you're prepared for that. And when those days come, you go, okay, I don't feel like it today, but I'll switch into, all right, I need to do it. And if I just start doing the Mel Robbins thing, like you said, just count to 5 backwards or whatever she does and just do it. Do you think that might make it a little bit easier as opposed to rather than, having this expectation it's going to go smoothly, that straight road, and then when you hit a speed bump, like the guy that you were talking about, he goes, okay, he visualizes all the difficult things he's going to have to go over. So that's the expectation. So when he gets there, he's not demotivated, going, "Holy crap, what's this that's now hit me?"
It's a bit of a reality check, really, isn't it? More
Yeah,
than foreseeing like doom and gloom. It's
yeah.
reality. If you're running a 240-mile race through mountains, it's got to be awful. Like you can predict quite.
I know.
It's going to be awful, bloody
What kind of
awful.
sociopath are you?
Yeah, I know. Yeah. Yeah, and I wonder if it's got something like, I don't know if you agree with me, to do like we have gone quite soft as people.
Well, that's
Everything
another
is
story. Yeah.
easy, you know. It's we expect everything to be easy, like you, and
Well,
marketing is
that's what I'm saying. That's that
yeah,
expectation. The road is smooth, and then all of a sudden, when we get
yeah.
real life, everyone's
I
got a
mean,
participation trophy.
yeah. I mean,
Turned up.
if you really want to, you don't have to get off the couch the whole day,
Mm,
right? You can have your groceries delivered.
mhm,
You can have your dinner delivered.
mm,
You You have entertainment, you've got the whole world on a phone. You actually literally don't have to get off the couch if you really don't want to. I mean, most of us work from home on computers. You
mm.
literally can just be on the couch all day
Yeah.
long. You don't have to hunt for your food. And I think that we just expect things just to fall into our laps, and we actually, we live in warm houses, we've got comfy beds, we have,
Mm,
the ambient temperature is always quite lovely, like we're not out in the cold and rain and,
mm,
snow. And so I think that's what it is. It's the expectation that everything is easy. I mean, everything is at our fingertips, everything is instant. And unfortunately, fit body is something you just cannot buy. You have to earn it
mm.
bit by bit.
Yeah.
You can't just like download it of an app. You can't buy it for 3 easy payments of $3.99. You know what I mean? Like you just can't. But everything else, pretty much, you can.
Mm,
So I think that's I think what. And actually, I know that Andrew Tate has a lot of bad rap. I get
mm,
it. But I heard him in an interview where somebody asked him, "How do I get a six pack as fast as I can, as easy? What's the
mm,
easiest way to get a six pack?" And he got really angry and he said, "Why do you want it to be easy?
mm,
Why are you not prepared to suffer
mm,
and go through pain? Because if it was easy, everybody will have a six pack. But when you look at a guy who's got a six pack, you know, that guy has been getting up every day, pumping
mm,
iron at the gym. He's watching what he's eating. He's really dedicated, really driven to achieve that goal. So it's a status thing. It's a, it's
mm,
a it's a value because you have to work so hard to get
mm.
a six pack. It's not easy. So why? So he completely shredded this guy, like ripped into him, and say, "Why do you want it to be easy? It
Mm.
shouldn't be. You should expect." He said suffering. Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
It is suffering. It is because it's hard when you're eating chicken and rice, for weeks and weeks on end, and doing hours of core exercises. So, yeah, I think we shouldn't expect it to be easy.
Well, and that's the point I'm getting to, is that where if we want to move to that space, you've got to have the reality in front of you, not going, "Oh, this is the reality." Um, you know, and I mean, there's certain levels of where you're going to aim. Certainly, if you're going to aim to be the best in the world, at any. I mean, we'll take tennis players for example. I don't know why that just popped into my head, but what was it? I've forgotten his name now. One of the recent, not Agassi, it was after Agassi. Anyway, Swedish Switzerland tennis player. I can't remember. Anyway, he, if you're going to be at that level, if you're going to be the number one in the world, where there's a competition and there's a tier, and there can only be one Highlander reference. But if there can only be one, then you have to put in a tremendous amount of effort to be that one, because you've got to be better than everybody else, and that requires a massive amount of effort. Now, I would suggest that most people in the world don't want to be the best in the world. And this is where we're coming to the MED that you're talking about. You can have a very, very, very good life. And I get what you're referencing with Andrew Tate, and I have no problem with that, because it was interesting. They did a survey here. Unfortunately, it was misrepresented in the media. And I won't get into the detail of that here. I have previously. But it was talking about how Andrew Tate had got hold of all these young boys, and they had a survey. But when I actually got the original survey data, and what it showed was 50% of boys didn't agree with him at all. Of the other 50%, they went through what they agreed with, and some said, "Well, he's confident." Well, yeah, what's wrong with that? He's fit, and they highlighted the part that there was boys that agreed with his view on women. And on the survey, there was 15% of the boys said they agreed with his view on women. But the only view that they had that was questioned, was put forward, was these 15% said that sometimes, and Andrew Tate had said, sometimes women are difficult to understand, and they agreed with that comment. And that could be said of both genders. I was going to say, that could be said of both genders. Just put that out there. What I found interesting from that perspective, where I'm going with this for the people that are going to start going rah rah rah, is that the boys not only were able to, as you have done. I mean, if you take Adolf Hitler, horrible person in so many ways, but to say he wasn't a good orator, or to say he wasn't a good influencer, obviously in the wrong direction.
In the wrong direction, but he achieved some phenomenal things in a horrible way. But
I mean, initially it turned the economy around. There's another thing as well. But, and this is where what I found most interesting about that survey was that these boys were able to identify the difference. They would say, okay, I don't agree with the misogynistic part. Fantastic, but I've taken these elements, which is good. And that's where I'm wondering what you're talking about here, again, having that approach to, okay, do we need to just have a reality check and go, well, if I want to be, maybe, I don't want to be the best tennis star in the world, but I want to be reasonably fit so I can get out like you do and go surfing and things like that. That seems to me to have one simpler steps to get to. I won't use the word easy word. I won't use the E word. How about that? We're going to try that. I think life is easy. If you just do the sensible things, it's easy. As we talked about in the pre-show, some of the exercises you talked about, and the last time we were talking about, I did a little bit of research in, started doing them. Now, was it physically easy to do that initially? No. Is it still easy to do those exercises? No. Is it easy for me to do that for 5 minutes a day? Yes. And that's where, I want to explore that from, that expectation. If we have an expectation going, okay, I'm where I am now. Me to think I'm going to be, pumping out these super reps straight away, that's unrealistic. Me to go down here and go, okay, there's going to be some bumps, but if I just do that minimal effective dose. If the minimal effective dose is relatively easy, certainly it's easy compared to doing 10 hours in the gym every day, but I'm going to have great results from that. And having that expectation, do you think that might encourage people to be more motivated?
I think so. Yeah, I think people tend to overcomplicate exercise.
I think
You
I
know, like I think
complicate
that
most
there's,
things, but yeah.
yeah,
So,
it literally is 10 minutes. If you can stand with 10 minutes of mobility every single day,
mm,
like I had so many testimonials people have sent me just this week, just from doing 10 minutes of mobility. I had a woman who had a lower back issues for years. And after doing my mobility program for 2 days, her back felt better. 2 days. 2 days.
so how
That's
hard is that?
how hard is that, right? And now
Mm,
now she that will propel her forward, right? Because she's like, oh my gosh, I've just like feel so much better. So I'm gonna keep going because it's just gonna get better and better and better. I
mm,
have another woman who's been doing mobility not even every day for a couple of weeks. And then she bent down and was waiting for that pain in the knee that she's had there for years. And it
mm.
never came. It
Yeah,
never came. 2 weeks.
yeah.
2 weeks of mobility, not even every day. And I think
Mm.
that's
That's why I
proof.
question the hard thing. That's not hard to do.
It's not hard. And mobility movements are not hard. They're
Mm.
not hard. They actually feel good. It's 10 minutes a day. That's all it is. And then you can, I think people just don't realize that it is really life changing. It's easy, it's short, so everybody can fit 10 minutes in. Hey,
Mm.
you just have to show up and just give it a whirl and see what happens.
Because that's my question that I remember a number of years ago. Because I mean, I'm tall, so me being overweight is not hard. I'm 6 foot, but I was 110 kilos, and not a bodybuilding 100. I've been 110 kilos in a bodybuilding fashion before. This time it wasn't in a bodybuilding fashion. It was around the time of my first got married, my first marriage, and the irony of that is a lot of people when they get married they get to this amazing figure to get their wedding photos done. I was the opposite. I wasn't in a great shape, and then whenever I look at my wedding photos I'm going, I feel awesome because I always spent way to motivate yourself. But what I noticed was around that time when I was overweight, that weight, we were skiing in Switzerland. And by the time we get to lunchtime, my thighs were killing me. I was exhausted because I'm carrying so much weight. Um, Between then and the time we went back the following year, I didn't do any more exercise. I don't think I did much exercise. I changed my diet. I didn't change what I ate. I just ate less, and I was drinking then, and I drank less. So really, it was looking at, okay, I've got a big plate of food here. Firstly, I didn't put as much on the plate to start with. And I lost nearly, I think it was 25 kilos, close, it was 25 or
Wow,
26 kilos in a year
that's amazing.
by not, by literally doing less, because I was eating less. So I must have been doing less. So I was doing less.
Mm,
Because if I had ate the same, it would have been more effort eating and
mm,
digesting and all that kind of stuff. So I did less, lost that weight, and I noticed when we went back and skiing the same place, I could ski all day, got up the next day, ski all day. And I said it wasn't like I was going to the gym, running, or anything like that. Um, so that's where I wonder about it. And I get what you were talking about being hard. I mean, if you're going for this ripped, you know,
mm,
six pack, obviously your diet's got to be around that. You've got to cut out a lot of sugar. You've got to do it in so many ways to have that. I mean, I have friends who, well, I used to do bodybuilding, and to get to that state requires a specific diet, so you don't have that. So
mm,
again, that's why I'm coming back to this whole expectation thing. If we have a misconstrued expectation,
mm,
is that setting us up to think it's hard when it's not?
mm. And that's what most of my clients realize. Oh my gosh, it's actually not that hard.
Mm,
It really, and you know, like I'm kind of talking about people that are maybe not moving a lot or people that are trying to fix their injuries and,
mm,
just ordinary, or I shouldn't say ordinary people because everybody is extraordinary, but like
mm,
just everyday people, the busy mom and dads, the grandparents, just busy people. It's not that complicated. It's not
mm,
hard. It's not. To keep a basic level of like freedom of movement and pain-free movement is actually
Mm.
really simple. And I often I get a lot of people that come to me from like CrossFit and all those, high intensity gyms. And I have nothing against those, but they produce a lot of people with really bad chronic injuries because
Mm.
it's a bit much. It's full on, it's hard out all the time. And often the coaching doesn't really allow for the different abilities and fitness levels. And
Mm.
where was I going with that? Yeah, and that's you're not fit and strong in my eyes if you are injured all the time because they do what I call the boom and bust of exercise. So they
Mm.
go hard out at CrossFit for 6 weeks, they get injured or they aggravate their injury that usually shoulders or hips or knees, and
Mm.
then they're out for like 3-4 weeks recovering.
Mm.
They pay a lot of money for physios and acupuncture and whatever, fix themselves up. And then they go back and do another cycle of 6 weeks and then they
Mm.
go back down. So, in my eyes, you're not fit. Yes, maybe you can do one of those crazy workouts where you do 100 clean and jerks and climb a rope and, I don't know, do 100 burpees.
Mm.
But your exercise is not building you stronger, it's breaking you down.
Mm.
And sometimes people kind of like smirk at my mobility, but that actually fixes people.
Mm.
That actually gets rid of pain and in as little as 2 days.
Well,
So
what you're talking about there, and for the listeners as well, just to actually do a bit of product placement for you as well, Jana, because we were talking about in the pre-show. I hadn't been active for a while, and as a result of that, had some fairly serious lower back pain.
mm,
Partly, and so I started stretching, which helped fix it. But as a physio friend pointed out to me, I need to stretch the other way as well. So not just stretch forward, but stretch backwards. Which then, because the stretching it was helping a little bit, but not much. It was still difficult to get out of bed.
mm,
And then I stretched the other way, which was it was good. It was making a difference. The key difference, and it happened literally in 2 days, was the exercises that you teach with mobility. After our just last discussion, I looked up some of the things that you were talking about, and I did that. And yes, literally within it was 2 or 3 days of doing it, and not every day. It was like I did it. I think a couple of days, had a go, then I did it again, then a couple of, and the next morning, I think it was after the third time I did it, and so it wasn't every day. I
mm.
had no pain at all. And I said this is not for people that have, when there's physical things that are wrong, but when
Yeah,
you're
yeah.
talking muscular stuff,
Mm,
the movement component, it made a massive difference, and that's what you share. It's this movement component of having that resilience,
mm.
um, and it doesn't take long either because
No,
you're what I mean. So from that perspective, is it a case of we were talking about the realistic expectations. If we have that if we have an expectation of this is going to be simple, easy, use the E word. We're going
mm,
to have fun with lots of words now. We're going to have lots of taboo words. If we have this expectation that it's going to be this smooth line, and I know from my perspective in doing it, sometimes, I get up and I've got things to do and I'll get to the end of the day and I won't have exercised at all, which is why I set myself up and say I will exercise most days, because then I haven't failed if I don't do a day. And it's a mental shift for me.
mm.
Um, is it, do we, I mean, I know I'm banging on the same drum here, but is it, we need to set that realistic expectation?
Yeah, absolutely. It is simple, but you just need to expect that some days it's going to be hard
Mm.
because you don't feel like some days you get up and bounce out of bed and you know
Mm.
go through a workout and you feel like $1,000,000, and some days it's a struggle for whatever reason. You
Mm.
crawl out of bed and then you suffer through your workout.
Yeah, I want to, with that, because I mentioned procrastination earlier, and I wanted to come back to that. So this is a nice segue into that. We said for whatever reason, because I was thinking about procrastination some time ago, and I personally don't think procrastination exists. I think it's a fictional thing that we've come up with as an excuse. And the reason I say that is, and I've done this, I've binge watched. I used to have a massive DVD collection, and I've binge watched, DVDs and things like that. Binge watched streaming as well. And I'm going to use that as an example. And what I did is also I was paying attention. I noticed when I was binge watching, and this is where I think in any given moment, what you're focused on is what you're doing. What is most, and you mentioned about this with priorities. What your priority is in that moment is what you'll do. And I noticed when I was binge watching something, my priority, my focus was I want to watch this show. Now I had other goals. And then when I stopped and I said, well, what if I think about my goal instead of wanting to do, what if I make that in my, and it was easy to make that mental shift. I went, this is my goal. And as you said, your why, you referenced why. And I went, I just thought about, I want to achieve this goal. And all of a sudden it became really uncomfortable to sit there and watch the show.
Yeah.
Is that part of this setting priorities? I said that's my experience, but maybe I'm some mutant. I don't know. I'll call myself an X-Men.
No, I mean, it was interesting. You kind of sit in that discomfort of suddenly realizing that that's not really what your goal was, and you were just wasting. Well,
that wasn't my priority.
Time. It wasn't your priority. Yeah.
Mm.
So yeah, it is about. Yeah, I agree with you. That's a really cool story, actually. Yeah, because I've done that before. When you just suddenly go like,
And that's why I said when I wake up in the morning, and I've trained myself. That's why I say I don't have bad days. When I wake up in the morning, my first thought is, what is awesome about today? What is going to be great about today? And what I'm actually doing, because you talk about gratitude, and a friend of mine in London put this to me, and I think, and I'm going to credit him to do this, Jevon, and he's on a couple of podcasts here as well. We're talking about gratitude, and he goes, what I've actually done is I've got future gratitude. So I'm being grateful for things that haven't happened yet.
Wow, that's potent.
Yeah.
So you can totally tie that to the exercise, right? Like, I'm grateful because in 10 years' time, and I'm holding my first grandchild, I'm going to be able to go, book, or like I'm going to be able to, for me, it's surfing. I want to be one of those really ridiculously old, wrinkly grandmas.
Yeah.
Surfing with my hopefully great grandchildren. So yeah, so in a way, that's amazing. Be grateful for the things that haven't happened yet. So you are working towards it and putting, it's like depositing money in the bank for your retirement, isn't it? And I often compare mobility to saving up for your retirement. So you're putting everyday mobility is basically a little deposit in your little bank. So then you can make the withdrawal when you want to do amazing things when you're bit.
Yeah.
When you are blowing a lot more candles on your cake later.
But with that exercise thing, because that's what I did with what you were talking about, with the exercises you shared with me and the way that you approach things with mobility. Because when I first did it, as we talked in the pre-show, I was like, oh my God, I started doing it. I was like, holy crap, I'm nowhere near as mobile. But it was really interesting, that process. But what I did that future gratitude thing, and not even way into the future. I noticed the first time I did it, it was difficult to do, but I noticed afterwards I felt good. So the next time I went to do it, and I was like, oh, do I really want to do this? And I went, I'm grateful because I'm going to feel awesome after this, immediately after. So, and it's 5 minutes of exercise. So in 5 minutes, I'm going to feel awesome. And all of a sudden, there was no difficulty. It wasn't hard to do. It was fun to do. And I wonder about, although he's a musclehead, but I'm going to reference Arnold Schwarzenegger. The condom full of walnuts type.
I love it. Yeah. I love his inspirational talks, though. He's amazing.
Exactly. And that was the point he talked about when he's in the gym. People would be going, oh, my God, I got to do another rep. But he said he loved doing the extra reps. And is that the framework, again, that future gratitude? Maybe he was doing future gratitude and not realizing it.
Maybe. Or maybe like reframing it like exercise is something I get to do rather than have to do.
Yeah.
Like it's a gift. It's a gift to
Yeah.
move your body. It's, it is a gift to be given an able body because a
Mm.
lot of people don't,
Well, you have
you know.
the ability. You don't even have to be given it. You can create it. From what you're saying, the people you work with have been, you know, the complete opposite, but they've turned around things very, very quickly.
Incredibly quickly. Yeah. So it is. It's a privilege, and it's yeah. I find it really hard to understand people that just won't do it. That just won't
Mm.
dedicate the 10 minutes to, just as you said, feeling so much better within minutes.
Mm.
Because it is, because the quickest way to raise your state of being is to move.
Yeah.
That has been proven. Like, you get off your desk and you just, like, sometimes I go in on deadhead roses. That's all I do. When I'm feeling like the energy is slumping, I get up, I go into my garden and I do,
Deadhead roses.
like you cut off the dead roses of a rose bush or
Oh,
something
okay, yeah,
really
yeah.
simple.
I
Or
thought
like
I
I
was I
go,
was thinking of the Adams Family. You're cutting the
yeah,
roses.
I know, yeah. Morticia. Yeah, totally. Yeah, so it's, you just suddenly, like, you in the fresh air and you're just
Mm.
moving a little bit, but it's not tedious, you're not
Mm.
sweating, you're not puffing, but it's that just like moving your body a little bit and resetting. And it's just, you can just, like, in 3 minutes, you just feel so much better. And I think that's what I'm trying to do with my clients, get them addicted to that feeling,
Mm.
to connect the dots. Okay, I don't want to get up, but I know that if I do, I'm going to feel so good and I'm going to feel really good all day and I'm going to have lots of energy. And that ache that's usually in my neck is not going to be there. And just kind of go through that thought process rather than, oh, I'm tired. I'll do it later.
Yeah.
You probably won't. Yeah. Let's be honest here. Yeah. So that's why I advocate for the first thing in the morning exercise, get it out of your way. And I heard on some podcasts too that it's about stacking wins.
Mm.
You get up at 6 o'clock in the morning and you don't hit the snooze button. It's a win number one.
Yeah.
You get up. Win number two, you have a glass of water. Win number three, you go and do your 10 minutes of mobility. Win number four, you have your smoothie. Win number five. So before your family even gets out of bed and wakes up, you've
Mm.
stacked up 5 wins,
Yeah.
just like that. And
Yeah.
that means that for the rest of the day, you're just going to be stacking wins, right?
Mm.
Whereas when you don't do that, you hit the snooze button, you snooze for another 10 minutes, then you realize that your kid has gotten up now and wants breakfast. You've lost your 10 minutes. It's really hard to get it back, but you feel really grumpy because you know you've let yourself down and you don't feel good and you feel that tension in your lower back and the whole day is just going to go.
Yeah. I love that because I mean, that's where really wanted to go with this, and the MED that you're talking about is the foundation of doing that, because minimum effective dose, by its very name, is not a lot. It's the absolute minimum you can do to be feeling great. And that's
Yeah.
where I was wondering from that perspective, because we know, like you're talking about getting out and doing something, and I do, as I think I've mentioned before, I do my gumping. I've got out here on Beach House, I've got the big lawn, and I've got so I don't have to push it; it drives itself. I just have to walk behind it, so it's easy. And sometimes I put earphones in and won't put them on so no one disturbs me. It's like going fishing without putting any bait on, so even the fish don't disturb you. Having that peaceful time, but what I'm wondering from that perspective, and this is how we're talking about gratitude, future gratitude, and what you were talking about, getting out and doing something. We know that when you just think a happy thought, your body starts producing dopamine. And is this the part of that framework again? Going what you talked about, stacking the wins. It's like treating your life like it's a video game. Okay, here's my little gold coin for getting out of bed, and that's what I'm wondering, is it that mind shift where you start, instead of beating yourself up and focusing on, um, uh, the things you haven't done. Focus on the things you have done. As a friend of mine, she was exceptional in many ways, but when I was looking at what she was doing actually wasn't that great. But she was talking about how great it was. And when I say it wasn't that great, it was really good. But I was looking, going, I can do that. I can do that. But she was telling herself and telling others about, and not in a cocky way, just in a general conversation. But she was looking at going, yeah, I got out of bed. Wasn't that awesome? and stacking those wins that you're talking about, but getting that dopamine flowing as well. But she felt good about her day and accomplished so many amazing things. Is that, and again, we're creatures of habit. Is it a case of just shifting that mindset, that habit, so it becomes every day, just becomes normal, becomes
Mm.
easy, so we don't get old? I put both words in there.
Yeah. I mean, just like you brush your teeth, right? I mean, why do we brush our teeth twice a day?
Yeah.
What most people will brush their teeth twice a day, right? And floss.
Yeah.
Because they don't want to have that uncomfortable conversation with their dentist twice a year, right? Or because they don't want to go through the pain of having a cavity, or because they don't want to have to spend the money on that.
I love that analogy. Yeah.
So it's like, well, just like you brush your teeth, just do 10 minutes of mobility. It's like do it together. Somebody told me about a really good hack is to combine habits together. So then you do them, so let's say that, I don't know, where you're brushing your teeth for 5 minutes, you listen to your audiobook or something, like you kind of like combining things together.
Yeah.
I wouldn't necessarily advocate it terribly for mobility, because I believe that exercise is a really nice way to tune into your body. Like, I don't advocate for people listening to music when they exercise, because I think it's a really nice opportunity to tune in into your body, because we live in our heads so much.
Yeah.
And exercise might be just the only time of the day where you get to listen for what your body's telling you, or feeling, the pain or the stiffness or the tightness or some kind of imbalance. And so I thought that was quite interesting, of kind of combining habits together. I don't know how you would really do it with exercise, but that was quite interesting. Yeah. Or
What
like
you think?
every time you brush your teeth, you take your multivitamin, like it goes together, so you never forget. Have I taken my multivitamin? Well, I've brushed my teeth, so I must have.
Yeah.
Yeah. I thought it was
Or
quite
while you're
fun.
brushing your teeth, just twist a little bit.
Yeah. I have clients who do a bit of mobility when they're brushing their teeth. They do like little hip openers or something. Yeah. So you in a way could. Yeah. Just do a little kind of hack yourself almost. Anticipate the issue, like, oh, I struggle to get out of bed on time. And so what do you do? Like, I remember when my children were really little, my only window to exercise was between 5:30 and 6, really. My then husband was really busy at work. And I used to sleep in some of the workout gear. So that was like to eliminate another barrier in the morning. Because when it was cold at night, in winter, I didn't want to take pajamas off and put a sports bra on. So I would sleep in the sports bra, so it was warm. So in the morning, I would only chuck something on and go. That was kind of like, it's kind of removing the barriers a little bit. And that was what got me out at 5:30 in the morning in the middle of the night, and in the middle of winter.
In the
Pitch
cold
black,
mornings.
freezing. It's always windy here in Wellington, and that was what got me up.
It's a
just
beautiful city, though. I've been to
it's
Wellington a few
beautiful.
times.
It's absolutely beautiful. Yeah, it's just a little bit. It's not known for its.
No, it was wet. It was wet every time. No, actually, there was one sunny day that I was there. But yeah,
Oh, there
it
you
is
go.
a
You got the
beautiful
one sunny day of the year.
But from that perspective, and we're talking about minimal effective dose here as well. I mean, what's the difference? I mean, you mentioned about, you've obviously talked about the people that, go really hard into themselves. And so you've got that backwards and forwards. What about, from that, the impact that it has? Is it better to let's put aside having the time of the day to do it anyway. But if someone goes to the gym once a week and goes hard, or does 15 minutes a day, which is it would be better for them?
Well, you can mathematically work it out.
Yeah.
I mean, 10 minutes every day is 70 minutes a week.
There you
One
go.
1 hour practice. You answered your own
Told
question.
you I'm not very
there.
clever. I didn't even put that connection together.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, and but I'm all for, like, if you want to go and work hard out once a week at the gym, if that's what brings you joy. Like, I've started boxing this year because I'm loving that adrenaline rush and the kind of the group environment. And I mean, I know better not to get swept in it. And when they ask me to do 50 burpees, I'm kind of like, I'm going to do as many as I can with good form. And after that, I'll do something else, like,
Yeah.
so I know how to kind of modify
Mm.
workouts to not get, and also, I probably have a full day of clients after that. So I can't just
Yeah.
completely choose myself
Knock
out
yourself out.
in
Yeah,
the morning.
exactly.
Yeah. But totally go for that hard out workout, but then think about how you're going to pay the body back for the rest of the days.
Mm.
Because I think that sometimes people who maybe like, runners or people that, even for my surfing, when I go surfing for 2 hours, I need to have a look at it in a way that my body just did some phenomenal amount of work for me in that ocean. It
Mm.
paddled, it popped up, it rode waves, paddled back, and did it all again for 2 hours.
Mm.
It's kind of like, well, how am I going to pay my body back so it doesn't get injured? Because,
Mm.
there will be some tightness, there will be some stiffness, there will be some fatigue. So it's also like if you want to go for that hard out workout or twice a week, or you want to do your CrossFit,
Mm.
go for it. But think about how are you maintaining the unit or the machine to be able to
Mm.
do that. I mean, once my chiropractor told me, if you have a Toyota Corolla, you take it for a service once a year, right?
Mm.
That's all it kind of needs. If you've got a performance V8,
Mm.
you're going to take it for a tune up every week, right? And he said,
Mm.
Yana, you are the V8.
So you're appealing to a lot of people here.
Yeah, yeah,
Certainly to me.
totally. So, like if you are running the V8, if you
Mm.
are running a machine that you want to go to CrossFit 3 times a week, you want to surf every day, you want to go for a 20K run twice a week, then you need to tune it up. And the best way
Mm.
to tune it up is with mobility,
Mm.
where you get to remove the tension, the stiffness, all of the kind of little adhesions that happen in the body when you work it hard. So it's
Mm.
possible. You can totally keep your crazy workouts. Yeah. But you have to, Formula One. I mean, if
Yeah.
those cars go for one race and then they
Mm.
probably pretty much tune everything up, right? Every single bolt they will tighten, they change all the liquids, they change the tires, everything. So
Mm.
so, so yeah, they will probably that analogy would probably appeal to the male audience.
Well,
Yeah,
I
think
mean, I did
about
that when I used to race go-karts with my stepdaughter. After
mm,
every race, we completely stripped both goat because I had one and she had one. We stripped both down, cleaned them, rebuilt it, and get ready for the next time. So the
absolutely.
analogy makes a lot of sense. If you want it to be in peak performance, you need to be doing it regularly. Um,
Mm,
and I was just thinking from that perspective too. I mean, I guess we've covered it. I'm just reiterating the point of when you do those little bits of exercise a little bit regularly is going to have a profound impact over time.
mm. That's the compound effect, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, even 5 minutes every day. Or we talked about 10 minutes every day, 70 minutes a week.
Mm. It's a lot.
That's a lot of minutes. If I tell you now, go and do mobility for 70 minutes, you'll be like, oh, come on.
Yeah.
Like, I'm going to do that. I don't have time for that. But do 10 minutes every day, or do 3 sessions of 15 minutes, or
And you
divide it any way you want.
yeah. And you expand that to a year.
Or 10,
Yeah.
or
How
5.
much better is your life gonna be?
I mean, if people can get phenomenal results in 2 days or 3 weeks,
Yeah.
imagine how you would feel in 6 months or a year or
Mm.
10. Yeah. I mean, you see those people, hey, like people in their 80s. Like I surfed with someone who was 75. It was his birthday.
Yeah.
He was out there for
Wow.
2 hours,
Wow.
popping up and riding at 75.
Yeah.
Like it's possible, and it's possible for everyone. There's no luck involved. People
Mm.
sometimes tell me, "Oh, you're so lucky. You're a fitness coach. So easy for you." And I'm like, I run 2
I'm a
businesses,
fitness guy. I'm doing
solo
it.
and solo parent 3 children. Sometimes I have clients early in the morning, like, no, it's not, and I can't be asked sometimes either. I can't be bothered. I'm the same human being as everybody else. I'm not unique or special in any single way, like in terms of motivation or drive or dedication. But
Tell me
sometimes
about
I feel
that
even
though, when
higher.
you had those days, right, and this is for the audience. because I know
Mm,
the answer. Where you go, as you said, sometimes you can't be asked. You
yeah.
just go, okay. But then when you do go there and you meet the client and you go through it, how do you feel afterwards?
What if I don't do it because I
No,
can't
no.
do
If you do, yeah, I mean, you feel like because you said you don't feel asked, but you're a professional, so you're
it?
not going to go. Oh, I'm not going to turn up today because I don't feel asked. Like you're my client. I'm going to turn up. So you're going to turn up for your client, but you don't. You don't. You're like everybody else. You don't feel. Sometimes you don't feel like doing it, but you make yourself go. You turn up.
Mm.
The comparison between how you felt when you didn't feel asked to do it, you didn't want to do it, to you turn up, you do it. How do you feel after you've done the by comparison?
I mean, you always feel amazing, don't you?
Yeah.
Because it's.
That's for the audience.
Mm,
Just highlighting that point that even though, so it's not, Jana is here sharing, she's not, it's not easy for using the E word.
no,
Sometimes
no,
it's
it's
not.
not.
But when she does it, she feels amazing afterwards and just driving
Yeah,
that point home. Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. And it's with everything. It's with exercises, with clients, it's with
Yeah.
whatever work you set yourself that you do. It's kind of, we're so good at keeping appointments with other people, but often we're not really good at keeping appointments with
Uh,
ourselves. I actually tell my clients, you
mm,
put your workout in your Google Calendar,
yeah.
because it's, just like you keep appointments with everybody else, keep an
Mm.
appointment with you.
Well, if you treat yourself as you would treat other people, why
Yeah,
wouldn't you do that? I was
you
going to
should
ask you about that, but
yourself
you
even
answered
better
that
than
question.
other people. Yeah, because you is you. Yeah.
Well,
Mm,
yeah. I mean, well, I can't remember who made the quote, but the body it's your own vehicle that you carry around with you or that you live in,
I
carries you
know.
around. Got to take
It's your
care of it.
house, right? It's your
Yeah,
house. What would you be without it? A fluff of energy just floating in the ether,
yeah. It's
just
not
or
exciting.
just soul or whatever you believe in. You'll be nothing. You'll be a ball of energy floating in the
Mm,
universe. Yeah, that's
yeah,
that's all you are without your body. Yeah,
yeah,
that's the vessel. That's your Toyota Corolla or your V8.
yeah. I love
Mm.
that. So from that perspective, with the workouts and that, and this is your product placement part where we can talk about for people wanting to do this. I mean, if someone goes, okay, love listening to Yana, which we all do, everyone does. If you're not listening, if you're not loving it, you're not listening properly for the audience. Yana's amazing.
Love it. Thank you. That's very kind
Um,
of you to say.
so, I mean, I said from my perspective, the little tips that you shared with me. And it's one of those things, it's not like I didn't know that, was in the
Mm.
SAS, I was in but it just took someone to say, "Hey," which
Mm.
is what you did, and it just went, "Oh, yeah, yeah, I could do that." But
Mm.
for someone that's wanting to do that, how would they, reach out to you? What could you do? How would, what would you suggest, and how would they reach you?
So I have a website, which is my
Mm,
name with a dash in between Jana and Barrett. And on it, I have tons of freebies. So I
mm,
will tell people to start with the freebies.
mm,
So I have a widely popular 6-day mobility challenge. So it's
mm,
6 videos, one for each day of the week. So, 6 days a week, you don't even have to, or you can stretch it over 2 weeks. It doesn't matter. It can
mm.
be 3 videos over 2 weeks. And it's
It's
10-minute
inspired by
video.
God because it's 6 days and you have a day
Yeah,
off.
and then you rest one day. Absolutely. Yeah,
That's
there you
my old. I'm
go.
Polish Roman Catholic kicking
Yeah,
in
totally. Yeah, yeah.
there.
I was raised a Roman Catholic too, so I relate to that. Yeah, so jump into that and see what it will do for you. Yeah, it's 10-minute videos. That's all it is. You can just push play. I've recently redone it all, so it's really streamlined. There's not
Mm,
much coaching, so it's literally 10 minutes. There is 5 days of mobility for different body part, and the 6th day it's whole body mobility. So day one you get into the neck, day two you get into the shoulders, day three you get into the upper back, then you get into hips, knees. Yeah, so it's super easy.
mm,
I include a lot of instruction for people of different abilities and different skills. And you can be super tight and never done mobility in your life, and you can be a professional athlete and you will get something out of it. So if you want to start with mobility but don't quite feel like, maybe you're not entirely convinced that it will do magic for you, and you don't want to invest your hard earned cash into it, then jump into the free challenge and see how you feel.
and there's
There's
no
nothing to
excuse.
lose.
Exactly,
All
no
you do is
excuse.
you have to invest 10 minutes. That's
And
all
it's
you
an
have to invest.
investment, exactly.
Yeah, it's an investment. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's an investment in your health. So yeah, that's what I would recommend. Just jump into that and see what happens and let me know. Let me
yeah,
know what happens for you. Yeah. And then, obviously I've got a bunch of programs and stuff if people want to take it further, but it's a really good start.
I love that.
And
Yeah,
minimal barrier, minimal barrier.
yeah. Well, it is. I mean, and I love that the minimal effective dose. It's not. I don't think it's hard personally. It's not to do that little bit. It's just it seems to be more an attitude and a habit.
It's a habit. It's a
Yeah.
habit and commitment, and I think dedication to yourself. Yeah,
Mm.
that's all it is.
Oh, I love that dedication to yourself.
Hmm.
Yeah. How much do you care about yourself?
Yeah, how much do you care about yourself? And how much do you care about the life you live? Because if you are injured and unfit and
Mm.
miserable, it doesn't just affect you.
Mm.
It affects everyone that
Yeah.
interacts with you. If I can't go for a walk with my children, I'm going to be
Mm.
sad, but they're going to be sad too.
Mm.
It's not just you. And I think that often when people get fit and strong, they get confident, and they get resilient, and
Mm.
they become a little bit more of a force to be reckoned with. But
Yeah.
that spills
There's power. Power is the
everywhere.
ability to
Power.
act.
Yeah, and it's freedom too. It's
Yeah.
freedom to choose and to be able to do
Mm.
what you want. So I think that don't underestimate the effect, the ripple effect you getting fit and strong will have on
Mm.
everybody in your life. And
Yeah.
your children in particular. We need to show our children how good it feels to be strong.
Mm.
Mm,
Yeah, that's role modeling as well. There's a good motivation. Be a role model for your children. Be a role
yeah.
model for those around you as well.
Mm. A lot of clients sign up with me because of that. They don't want their children to see them unfit and struggling. Yeah.
Mm. Love that. Jana, it's been such a pleasure chatting with you as always. It's so exciting and I learned so much. And again, thank you very much for sharing your wisdom because it's certainly from my perspective, after 3 goes of doing the mobility exercises, it just completely got rid of any pain that I had in my back. So highly recommend it for the viewers listening.
Mm.
Jump on Jana's website. You've got, 6 free days. Free days! They're free!
Yeah.
Of mobility there. And plus, Jana's got a whole bunch of other packages on there doing great work in the world and helping people be mobile, active, and living. And I love the term that you'd had in the notes. Where have I got it here? Um, open yourself up to adventures. I love that. It's so
Yeah.
awesome.
Absolutely.
Um, thanks for taking time to be on the show, Jana.
Oh, it was such a pleasure. Thank you so much for having me, Damien. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for being part of the Share.care community and helping people around the world prosper. You're creating a bigger pie for everyone to share. The more people contributing to the world being a better place, the better the world becomes for others and for you.